was 27 years old. In fact, it was November 22nd. I had just been released from jail. I was homeless when I went into jail. I was a drug dealer, and so I had some clout. I had some cachet. And so I had all of my meager possessions stored at about 3 or 4 friends' apartments. When I was arrested, I had no idea this happened, but I made the papers. And I made the papers in a comical exaggeration of what had happened.
Welcome to Men of Abundance, the podcast for those looking to level up their lives by hanging out with some of the greatest leaders and established professionals in our community, living a life of integrity, honor, and the abundance mentality. Prepare to pay it forward with your host, former Army medic turned lifestyle entrepreneur, Wally Carmichael.
What is going on, all of you amazing abundant leaders? I am Wally Carmichael, your founder and host of the Men of Abundance podcast, the Pay It Forward community, proving to you that you can have a life of abundance in family, faith, finances, and fitness, or whatever other category that you want to follow that into. And you can do that on your way to having more. Now, today we have a conversation with yet another amazing, abundant leader. Really cool cat. I'm going to bring him out in just a minute. But before I do, I'm going to give you the opportunity to be abundant in your life today by paying it forward and sharing Men of Abundance with others. It's real simple, actually. You see the podcast player you're listening to this on? Just look for 3 little dots connected with a triangle. Now, you may have to look around a little bit for it, but it's right there on the podcast player. And I'm listening on Castbox, so it's at the top, on the top right. You'll see 3 little dots connected with an arrow. You click on that, and you'll be able to share this podcast on community, Facebook, Messenger, Twitter, Instagram, in an email, and WhatsApp, whatever other player that you have, whatever else you're subscribed to, whatever platform, you can share this. Just one click. Just click on it once, and then write something if you want to, or just go ahead and send it. Another really cool way to share this podcast and others is to take a screenshot of your screen and then share that on your favorite social media, on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and write a short little comment about what you're getting out of the conversation, and then hashtag MOA or hashtag Men of Abundance. That'd be really cool so that I can find those comments and then I can share those on my platforms. One other thing that's really powerful for you to do if you're listening on iTunes or if you have an iTunes account, just hop on over to iTunes real quick. Hop on over there and leave a rating and review. I greatly appreciate that, and I love reading through those every chance I get. So there you go. There's your way to give. There's your way to pay forward today. Be abundant in your actions today. Now, our featured guest today is a personal branding coach and audience growth strategist. He works with coaches, service providers, and entrepreneurs to explode their reach across social media and position themselves as true experts in their fields. And listen, be sure to check out the links in the show notes where you can find a copy of his book, The Tao of the Unbreakable Man, as well as the link to his exclusive Facebook group. Men of Abundance, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Manny Wolfe. Manny, welcome to Men of Abundance, brother. How you doing?
Man, I'm good. Wally, we've been waiting a minute for this.
A long minute, but we've been connected throughout the entire time. Where are you at in the world?
I am about 45 minutes below Lake Tahoe in the Northern California foothills. And God willing, we're just out of range of most of the sort of fire zones. And so it's a trip, man, because like it's just a small town, but it's like beautiful here.
Yeah.
You know, and the rest of California in the fall, everybody kind of puckers up, never knowing what's going to happen. And so far, it's like none of it has affected us at all. So I'm just, you know, you go on the news and it's like, oh my God, everything's going straight to hell in a handbasket. And I look out the window and it's like blue skies and birds chirping. And
I know. I feel you, man. I like Lake Tahoe, man. I spent some time down there growing up, I grew up in Phoenix, but we used to always drive out
Mhm.
to California and go out to the lakes out there and just absolutely love it, man. And I know what you mean about the news. I lived in Hawaii for 10 years, and especially during the volcano eruptions and whatnot, people
Yeah.
are like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Well, first off, it's not on my island. Second, Big Island's like this big, and the volcano's
Mhm.
like right over here."
Right.
But the
Yeah.
news makes it look like,
Yeah.
it's taken
Yeah.
over the entire state of Hawaii. You know,
Sure. Yeah.
that's how the news works, man.
So
Anyhow,
they get you.
enough about that. I like to start out with an attitude of gratitude, brother. What do you have to be grateful for today?
Oh man, well, like my location for one thing,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a California boy, born and raised, but I mean, I love it here. So there's that. I am shoot, man, I got so much. The whole episode could be what I'm grateful for. I'm healthier now than I was in my 30s when I got sober. I have healed every significant dimension of my life from starting way behind the starting line, emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, financially. And I don't want to say something that we all say so that it's diminished without putting a caveat on it, but like it really means something to me that I get to help people and serve people. In our space, Wally, we hear that so much that we can sort of tune it out.
Mm,
And I know you're the same way. I mean, your whole mission is about service. So for those listening, like guys like Wally and I are really, really, it's profound for us that we can do that.
yeah.
You
No,
know?
absolutely, man. I mean, and it's been a pleasure to watch you grow and grow with you, quite frankly.
Yeah,
I mean, we
totally.
got connected. I was trying to find it here. I know it's been over a year that we've
Oh,
been
yeah,
connected.
it's been quite a bit more than that.
Yeah, it's been quite
Hmm.
a while. And, we are in the same circles. We're in a lot of the same Facebook groups. We've talked a
Hmm.
couple times.
Yeah,
And where you've come from even just a couple of years ago is just
yeah,
absolutely amazing. And listen, guys, that's all we're doing here, man. At Men of Abundance, we're trying to get you out of your seat and to grow into yourself and just become a better man
yeah.
tomorrow than you were today. Not better than anybody else. Who cares about that?
Mm-mm.
Let that crap go. Just be the better version of yourself tomorrow than you are today. And I'm telling you, Manny has grown by leaps and bounds. I love it.
It's been, I mean, when I look, I look back on like, the kid who had guns pointed at him, the kid who on Thanksgiving Day, instead of going to eat Thanksgiving dinner with his family, he slogged about a mile and a half through a dirt field to break into a little convenience store that with his friend because we knew it was going to be closed for Thanksgiving. Like I was just a hoodlum, I was just and a bum. And to look back on that now, and when people say to me, "God, I can't even imagine you like that." Like, that's so cool, man. It's like, yeah, it's like, that's the best thing you could say to me. It's the best thing you could say to me is, I can't see you as a hoodlum. Well, good.
Good. I remember those days, but those days are what is part of our journey. We can't deny it. I don't, it's not something I'm proud of, but at the same time, and I wouldn't expect anybody else to go through that experience. I certainly know my boys will not go through that experience. But
Right.
yeah, absolutely. It's a interesting life that we grew up in. And
Yeah, man.
it sounds like you grew up very much like I did,
Mm.
for sure. I mean, I started out in a trailer behind another man's house. And then when my mom
Mhm.
divorced my dad, she married another guy and we upgraded to the trailer park. So, it was
So
that kind of lifestyle.
you were like the Jeffersons. You were moving on up.
Moving on up. And then once I got old enough, I moved on out, man.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I left many years ago. Anyhow,
Mhm.
here we're going to get into your professional stuff. We talked a little
Sure.
bit about it before we got started here in your bio, but here on Men of Abundance, we really like to get to know the man behind the abundance. So if you would, let's get a little bit more personal. How would you describe yourself?
I feel like, that's an interesting question, and it's not one I want to give a BS answer to. I feel like I sort of am living the really, really good side, and sometimes the problematic side of wanting so bad to give as many other people as I can what I didn't get. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, because just a second ago we were talking about our childhoods, and while I wouldn't wish that on anyone else, I don't regret it for a second. You know, it really, really shaped me, and it gave me a strength and a forging that I carry with me to this day. Now, I'm really, really fortunate to have worked very hard to put myself in a position where, like, I'm serving people, and I'm watching the people I serve just have crazy success. Like and we'll talk about that, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Absolutely.
emotional and the personal side of it is, I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say it chokes me up sometimes, man.
Mm-hmm.
It can bring me to tears. You know, one of my students right now has gone from never having more than 5 clients at a time. She only did one-on-one coaching. She's a tutor, to filling up her 10 slot roster and having to open 4 group coaching programs, hire an assistant, an employee, and she's looking for another one. And she's still got a waiting list of probably 20 people right now ready to pay her as soon as she can open another program. Every time we talk, she's like, I'm so excited that it makes me a little sick to my stomach. And she tells me this stuff, you know, she's like, I had no idea that what I did in my life could look like this. And it's like, that's an example of being able to give what nobody ever gave me. Mm-hmm. You know, what I sort of, like a lot of us, I forged it on my own. I really did. I'm not saying I never had any help, never had any support, but for every time there was someone in my life who believed in me, for every signal I got that said you have value, there were 100 signals that said you don't.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that's a really deep core sort of truth of the personality of the guy I am. You know, I want to give people what I wasn't given. It really, really drives me. It really, at the bottom of it, beneath the money and beneath everything else. And guys, by the way, I'm all about the money. I'm not one of those people who's going to downplay the importance of that side of things. But there's that, it's like scratching. I'm able now today to scratch an itch that's been in my soul since I can remember. Mm-hmm. You know, that was really what it was I want to know that through coming in contact with me, I'm helping people to get things that I was never given. Like, that is just a huge.
Well, and the beautiful thing about that is, the real beautiful thing about that is the ripple effect, because you're helping people that are going out and in turn using their individual skills. Yeah. And that is just, you're helping them reach more people. This is the beautiful thing that, you know, when it comes to, because I'm just obsessed, truly obsessed with marketing and business strategies. Yeah. And, you know, it just angers me to the point to where, you know, I've learned to step back and just let that be. But when people are so suspicious of somebody who wants to offer something to somebody, and as long as it's, you know, something that they need, because they truly feel that this is going to help them in their life. And I find this all the time, because so many people have been burned. I finally just landed a client yesterday that's a moving company that's been talking to me for almost 2 months. Yeah. And he's been burned. He's been spending thousands of dollars on marketing and paying for buying leads and getting ranked and Facebook and this. And I'm like, dude, I get it, but you're doing it all wrong. And here's some proof. And finally he called me and say, here's my credit card information. Let's get going. And I'm just so freaking excited for him, because I know where it's going to take his business, and I know what's going to happen to him and I have to have the conversation. I'm like, dude, are you prepared to receive the amount of business you're going? I'm dead serious. You know, I got 5 trucks and this. Okay. We're going to take it slow. So, but my point is this, you know, and I know you have the same thing, because we've talked and I see you online and stuff, and so many people are just so much out there. And you just have to grab a hold of the people that you resonate with, and with the, that are going to serve you the way you want to be served.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much in there, Wally. There's so much in there, buddy. But just at the surface level, all of us who try to operate from integrity and offer a service can relate to that idea of the sort of skeptical potential client,
Mm-hmm.
And it's because there are a lot of bad providers out there. And
Mm-hmm.
and here's another interesting thing. It's a little tangential, but we talked about going down rabbit holes. So what the hell, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
One of the things that nobody talks about that's really, really important is like I was a martial artist for a long time, and there was this joke. You got your first level black belt is called a shodan, and then second level is nidan or something like that. But you get up to fifth degree black belt, and it's shihan. And there's a thing in martial arts, in the martial arts world, especially the Western, like making money from a franchise-based world, called spontaneous shihan syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And what it is people who don't want to wait until they really get to that fifth degree black belt, which is a long haul. So they literally invent their own style and declare themselves the king or queen of that style. Right. Mm-hmm. And then you can apply slick marketing, and you can apply branding tactics, and you can start a franchise pretty quickly. Now, will your system be as good as the old tested and true systems? Of course not. It's ridiculous.
Right.
However, you can bump yourself up there. And in our world, the equivalent to that is all of these people. Like I was in speaker coaching for a long time. That was what I did. What I saw was just the marketplace was crowded with people who speak, no idea even if they're good, so they assume they can teach it. And the thing that we're missing is good teachers. Now you'll know this, right? Mm-hmm. Even if the person, lack of good teachers creates skepticism in the marketplace. Even if, so you've got the people that are just charlatans, right? Yeah. You've got the people that are just like snake oil salesmen. Mm-hmm. That's bad enough. But then you get the people who, they really want to help you. They just have no earthly idea how to convey the knowledge in a useful way.
Right.
I'm in one guy's program.
They don't know how to market. They don't know how to get in front of the people and have that conversation with them.
Yeah. And it's like some kind of a double-edged sword or something, because most people focus on learning the marketing if they do anything at all, but driving results requires good teaching.
Yeah, I think I heard Robert Kiyosaki one time talking to somebody who was this, very articulate and just great about language and writing and the whole bit. And obviously I'm not. And Robert's like having this conversation, and he says, well, I have multiple best-selling books. And she goes, I've read your book. It's crap. It's not written with, the language is not proper. And he said, I never said it was the best written book. Yeah. I said it's the best selling book. Yeah. You can write all the best written books in the world, but not sell one of them.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. He's a freaking marketer.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's an interesting case in point, because it's coincidental that you bring him up. But when I talk to people who have gone to his seminars and stuff, the general consensus is it's pretty lightweight.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right? I agree. Personally, yeah. I think his books, they're great on why to, but not a whole lot on how to.
Right, exactly.
Specifically. That's my take on it. Yeah.
So the second level of reason that there's skepticism in the marketplace is people who have done it but just don't know how to teach it. If they knew how to teach it, they could get you results. Mm-hmm. So there's that old those who can't do teach. But in our space, there's like the flip side of that is like, just because you can do doesn't mean you can teach.
No, and that's absolutely correct. I mean, and there's so many more examples about that. And one example that I like to share in reference to this conversation about kind of the charlatans and people that haven't really done, but they're known as an authority figure. Two that I know of specifically is Simon Sinek and Michael Gerber. Mm-hmm. So Simon Sinek wrote, Leaders
Start
Eat
with
Last,
why.
Start
Leaders
with
Eat
Why,
Last. Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that stuff. He's never led anything. What's he ever led?
Right.
But he's studied the hell out of it, and he's known as an expert in that space.
Yeah.
Michael Gerber has never owned a business, but he's written
Isn't
E-Myth, and E-Myth Revisited. He revisited it and still hadn't actually started a business.
Yeah.
But my point is this: it's not really a hit on them. The fact of the matter is they're very knowledgeable about the skill, but they're very good teachers.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people follow that stuff. And I think Simon has a lot of great points too, because he followed a lot of military around, generals, whatnot. And I spent 25 years in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Leaders do, in fact, eat last. I sometimes went without because my soldiers go first and they got the lion's share, and I ended up with some scraps.
Yeah.
They're doing the work. Well, we're all doing the work together. But the bottom line is we've got to take care of the troops.
Yeah.
And that's a fact. And there's so much more to that. But yeah, there's, so my point is this, in bringing those two guys up, is a lot of people out there, they have a lot of skill. They haven't, like football coaches, professional football coaches, NFL. How many of them have ever been to the Super Bowl or even played professional ball? Very few of them, but they're damn good coaches.
Right. And so the point here then is that what we're lacking in our space is, among other things, is good teachers. Mm-hmm. And most of the people that have the slick branding and have the slick marketing, not so good at the actual teaching.
Right.
I'm in one guy's program who is I won't name him because he's unquestionably brilliant at what he does. But this guy is like, he's an engineer to the nth degree, and he speaks just like an engineer. Mm. And so if you're not an engineer, there's no way you're tracking it. Everything he teaches is overly complex. Mm-hmm. It's multi-layered. And so I literally went through multiple assistants to just just go in there, and if you can parse that course out and say it to me in layman's terms, you're in.
Yeah.
Because I will never figure it out.
Right. I know. Exactly. No, I know. You're either way over my head or you're just talking third grade to me, and then you're just kind of insulting me. Got it. So we're going to shift gears here a little bit, man, because one of the things that I like to ask is that kick in the gut moment. Yeah. And I'm sure you've got one or two. And most of us have several, but if you would share with us one of those kick in the gut moments with us and really make us feel that. And then we're going to get into, what did you get from that? What did you learn from it? And did it change the trajectory of your life?
So you're looking for the one that changed the trajectory of my life.
Yep.
I've got that one. I was 27 years old. In fact, it was November 22nd. I had just been released from jail. I was homeless when I went into jail. I was a drug dealer, and so I had some clout. I had some cachet, and so I had all of my meager possessions stored at about 3 or 4 friends' apartments. When I was arrested, I had no idea this happened, but I made the papers. And I made the papers in a comical exaggeration of what had happened. I made the front page of the Chico Gazette or the Chico Tribune or the Chico whatever it was, because that's where I lived. And they framed the story as though it's so funny if you could have seen me at that time, but they framed it like I was a drug kingpin. Mm. I was just some kid who sold a little because he liked to do a lot. Anyway, so they positioned it, and I would learn later that the reason they did that was to try to flush some other bigger players out of the bushes. I don't know how they thought that was going to happen, but anyway, so there's this story that implies that I'm going to be going away for 2.5, 3, 4 years, a long, long time. When my circle saw this, people had strong reactions to it. Some of my best friends' parents saw it. It was a disaster. But one of the things that happened was a good friend of mine whose relationship with me had started to deteriorate, coincidental to me starting to make money as a dealer. He went around and he told everybody who had my stuff that I had reached out to him from jail. I was going to be gone a long time, and that I asked him to go pick up all my things. He basically stole all my stuff, everything.
Wow.
So I've had one of those only the clothes on my back moments. I know what that feels like, and it's really crazy. Fortunately, I had some street cred. So I get out of jail after about 2.5 weeks, and I go to one apartment and ask my friend if I can take a shower, and he looks like he just saw a ghost, and slams the door on me and locks it. This happens 2 or 3 more times. Thinking on my feet, I call a couple of friends I know, some really big farm, corn-fed farm boys, and we kicked in a couple of doors to get some answers. So, I literally knock on the door, somebody peeks out, they slam the door, boom, kick the door in, find some answers. What I found out was who took all my stuff. And you'll know this, Wally, there aren't too many genuine dyed-in-the-wool badasses in the world. But there are a few.
There are.
Right? There are a few who are like the human incarnation of pit bulls. The guy that took my stuff was one of those. He's only about 5'9", only about 145 pounds, and he was relentless. And he was a true dyed-in-the-wool thug. So my point to that is I knew right away there's no just settling this once. Because my mind first went to, and it's so funny now, 23 years later, I wouldn't even think of that as my first thing. My mind first went to, I'm going to have to fight this guy. So he's not the kind of guy that it's over with one fight. Whether you win or lose, it doesn't end there. There's now a vendetta forever, And so I'm scrambling and I'm talking to different friends, trying to come up with plans. And this was back in the era of beepers, you guys. So as I'm panicking and nervous, and I'm just in this heightened state, my beeper goes off. And I go into my friend's apartment and I say, hey, this is Manny. You just called. Well, the guy who took all my stuff just happened to be a black guy. The guy who called me was an extremely prejudiced, racist white guy now this thing that was an issue is now a racial issue. And this guy says, I'm coming down the hill. We need to talk. And this guy is another dangerous guy, like a legit, I'm editing the story tastefully here from how I'd tell it to you across a table.
Yeah.
But so he comes down, and this is where shit got real. He comes down and he knocks on the door and comes in. He says, you good? I said, I'm figuring things out. He says, all right, here. How graphic can I be on your podcast?
Oh, open it up, man. Be you.
Okay. He pulls out a big bag of drugs, gets everybody in the apartment high, including myself, and says, come on out to the car. We got to talk. So I go out to the car, and he comes in the passenger side, and he reaches in the glove box, and he pulls out a revolver. And the revolver has duct tape all over the handle. And it's so funny because the first thing I noticed was the serial number is on the metal plate that you then put the handle grips on, right? At the bottom. So it's like a snub nose 9mm or a snub nose 357 or something. And the first thing I noticed, even in the dark, was the file marks where the serial number used to be. I'm like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. And he pulls out another gun. And so now I'm holding a gun and he's holding a gun. And he basically says, here's what we're going to do. You and me are going to go find this guy and we're going to settle this thing. We're going to nip it in the bud before it becomes an issue. And, this is like, I've told this story so many times now. The moment that I was having right there was indescribable. It was different than any other moment I had ever had. Externally, I'm 100% focused on this guy. I'm dialed in. I'm playing the role. And inside, like all my preconceptions just shattered. Like the whole identity that I had Just, it was like somebody threw a rock through a glass house. I mean, it was crazy. So externally, I'm like, okay, sounds good. Meet me at midnight. Let's go do this. I knew right away I had 3 hours and 17 minutes to solve this problem before this guy came back.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking so clearly, right? Give him the gun back. He drives off. He's going to come back at midnight, gives me the last of the drugs and says, make sure you're good. You know, we might have a long night ahead of us. I immediately got on the phone and started making phone calls frantically, and I vanished from my old life by about 10:15 that night. Nobody in that town knew where I was or anything about me until Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah, I vanished. I was like Kaiser fucking Soze. I was gone, man. And I found myself in the back of a CRX, two girls I had never met before, giving me a ride back to my mommy's house. That was it, man. That was the moment that led me to get sober. Sobriety led me to what I would call a ruthless examination of every part of myself. Like I just didn't leave any stone unturned. I didn't take no for an answer. I was like, I'm going to find out why I wound up in that situation.
Yeah, man, you know, that's obviously the best decision you could have made at that point in time. Because like you said, who you were at that point was going to change forever. Rather you had ever gotten caught for it.
Not really,
not, you know, but I mean,
yeah,
you know,
I got caught on a couple of little things.
Yeah. But on something like that, that's a whole different level, because you and I both know people who have gone that far. And then some.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know for sure. I personally I do. And they're changed individuals forever. Some of them are still incarcerated, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So still wearing the orange jumpsuit. But anyhow, man, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, by the way, because that's pretty deep stuff. That's the reality of it. You know, we guys, as I say all the time, you know, we all have our past. Yeah. And it just frustrates the hell out of me when somebody looks at somebody of their past and say, you know, well, and you judge them based on that event that happened 23 years ago, or could have happened 23 years ago, or even the events that happened before that, because we all live and grow. Yeah. If you knew who I was back then, my wife I trickle out things now and again, once in a while. She did not know who I was when we got married. Not really. She knew who I was at that point in time, but she didn't know who I was and where I came from. Yeah. Where I've been, things I'd done, things I'd said that I'm definitely not proud of. But the point is, you know, I had a conversation with Cameron Harold. Cameron Harold used to be the COO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK. He took them from basically $2 million to several $100 million. Right. And he's Canadian. He's from Canada. And I never knew that in Canada, when somebody is incarcerated and then they get released, they have done their time. There's no record that they've ever been incarcerated. That's not the case in the United States.
No, it is not.
And that's why, like a buddy of mine, one of my friends who was incarcerated for quite a while, he's a very, very skilled mechanic. I think I don't know what the certification at ASC or one of the certifications. He can't get a certification to be a certified mechanic because he was incarcerated. Right. What the heck? And therefore, he can't get the jobs that he wants. Right. You know, he has to go out and do his own thing, type of thing. But what the hell does that? How are you helping somebody move forward and move on with their life if you put in those type of roadblocks in their way? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I mean, don't even get me started on that shit.
Yeah. So anyhow, we're getting down another one of those rabbit holes, brother. But yeah, it just frustrates the hell out of me the way that we do this type, you know, stuff here in this country, the land of the free. I'm a veteran, man, and I love this country to no end. But goodness, we got a lot to grow, a lot of growing to do.
Yeah, a lot to fix for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Anyhow, you know, Yeah, again, thanks for sharing that. And so you've already shared a couple good news stories about what you've been doing up at this point, what you're doing now. How did you get into doing what you're doing? I've seen some of the transition over the last couple of years, but how did you grow into what you're doing now? And share some more success stories from that.
I love that story. So it all started when I was sort of just still in that showing off for my wife, who was then just my girlfriend phase. And, like I'm a storyteller at heart, and I've got a lot of crazy stuff that happened to me. So it's pretty second nature for me to be able to just whip out a yarn and make the whole audience's jaw drop. And I did that with her a lot. It's a great way to get a little bit of attention, blah, blah, blah. One day I'm telling her one of these stories, and she just looks at me, and she's got like a tear, building up in her eye. And she just looks at me and she's like, you have to write this down. I had been showing off with these stories for a couple of years now, or whatever it was. And she's like, you have to write this down. You have to write these things down. And she just sort of cornered me. Like it really, like I didn't have a glib comeback, And I said, I always thought about writing a book, but I thought I would do it after I was more successful. And she said, are you kidding me? The fact that you're alive is a success. Mm-hmm. You got to understand that. The fact that after what you've been through, the fact that you're a committed parent and that you're even here at all and that you're not in jail or still an outlaw is a success. And I had nothing to say. I literally, Wally, I said, okay, all right. I went home that night and started writing. I finished the book it won't be a video, but if it was this video podcast, you'd see I was pointing to my book. I finished my book about 8 or 9 months later. And the next question became, what do you do with a book if nobody knows who you are, right? Mm-hmm. Because it became very clear very quickly that just trying to shop your book to publishing houses was probably not going to be the way to go. Mm-hmm. So I landed a 10-minute call with one of the bigwigs from Penguin. I don't know how I did it. And he said, how big is your platform? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, your audience. I don't have an audience. He said, well, you got to build an audience. That's what you have to do. I said, what do you suggest? He said, I suggest a podcast. Podcasting is a great way to build an audience. I said, okay. I promptly went and started a podcast. I did not in any way, shape, or form have the patience to deal with the editing and all the stuff that you know very, very well about. Yeah. So I had this little podcast, and it was like an indie film, got rave reviews, but nobody had ever heard of it. Yeah. But it did start me getting into the space, right? And as soon as I launched the podcast, people started messaging me saying, can you teach me how to sound like you? I was like, what the? Oh, yes. Okay. The answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm like, yes. Mm-hmm. So I'll never forget the first money I made online. Guy said, how much do you charge for microphone coaching, for voice coaching? And I'm like, $397 for a month. Mm-hmm. which I mean now, like that's funny, Yeah. And he said, how do I pay you? I didn't even know about PayPal. That's how green I was. Mm-hmm. I literally had this guy drive to the Bank of America or the Wells Fargo, whatever it was, in his state, in his city, and deposit $397 into my account.
Oh, my Lord.
And that was my first client.
That's amazing. So, I love that story. I love those stories.
I'm training this guy. Now, in the time between getting sober and getting into the online space, I had studied singing, I had studied acting, and I had studied public speaking. And so I had one of those Steve Jobs connect the dots in reverse moments where I'm like, actually, you know what? I actually can teach people this stuff. I do know this stuff. So the short story is that doing voice training led to public speaking training. A lot of speakers were showing interest in having a more powerful voice. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wait a minute, I could do all this. Like I've logged over 1,400 hours on the stage in front of groups, ranging into the thousands of people. I'm no stranger to being on stage and commanding the audience. I know how to do that. So I created a course. I started to market that course, started to sell that course, and started to become known as the speaker coach or a speaker coach. And all the while, people are going, "Oh, you train speakers? That's great. Can you get me booked?" Right? And so I'd always say, "I'll put together something on this. I will." And I mean, seriously, it took 3 years of me promising that. I finally put together something, and things went quickly into what I'm doing now. So here's what happened. Put together a 28-day Get Booked to Speak challenge. Got a bunch of people into it, took them through it. Everybody got demystified and realized that getting booked to speak is just a bunch of hard work.
Hello.
Yeah. It's just a bunch of tedious repetition. That's really what it is. It's prospecting.
Yeah.
So about halfway through the beta program, everybody's I can see the tiredness in their faces, right? So I'm like, what if you had somebody to do all this work for you? How many of you would pay for that? And all the hands shot up. And I'm like, okay, I'm onto something here.
That's an accidental funnel right there, man.
That's what it is.
Put them into the work and they're like, I ain't down with this, so I'll do it for you.
And so I launched, I got 5 sales on that call. I launched the done for you version of the service before I even had it figured out. So now I've got, fast forward 6 weeks, I've got 55 people in this done for you service. And we're applying to gigs like crazy. The guarantee was we'll apply to 50 gigs a month for each of you. Now, knowing my own sort of numbers, I made an assessment that if I applied to 50 gigs a month for you, that should yield about 2 to 3 invitations a month.
Mm-hmm.
But see, what I didn't know is the whole landscape had changed underneath my feet. And so about 7 of the 55 people are getting about 90% of the invitations. It was really dramatic.
Yeah.
So we hit the 5,000 application mark. 5,000 apps we submitted. And I said, okay, let's tear it down. Let's see what's going on here. I went and I looked at everybody's profile, and the 7 people unanimously were well represented across social media. You could go to LinkedIn, you could go to Instagram, you could go to Facebook and clearly see that they were thought leaders, they were pros. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The other
they had that social proof everybody's looking for.
They had what I call a personal brand.
There you go. That's more to the point. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The other 48 people, you got a picture from college, you're doing a keg stand, you're like, I stand with dogs. It's
it's not going to do it.
Which is really not going to do it. And so I had surreptitiously joined someone else's personal branding program on a lark, really. He was just rolling it out. And he's like, I'm giving it away at 90% off. I'm like, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was teaching me some really good stuff about my own positioning and how to do my own kind of work. And when I saw the difference between the people who had a good personal brand, and this is where you could tell what they did, whether they were good or not. You get a good sense of them from social media. I just knew. I was like, this is what I have to help these people do. And so I put together yet another course on personal branding. That takes us to where we are now. And now I've got, in fact, I just got off a coaching call right before this. At 10 a.m. today, I thought I had 3 students who had filled their one-on-one coaching and moved into group coaching. I have 4 now.
Nice.
Who have too many leads. They don't know what to do. They're getting too much business.
Mm-hmm.
I've got one student who has grown his audience by 330,000 people in 90 days. He's been given a radio show. Collectively, my first group of people have built well over 1 million person audience.
And what kind of, what are these vocations? What are the average vocations of these folks? Just to give the audience an idea.
Great question. One of them is a tutor, a high school tutor. One of them is a narcissism recovery coach. One of them is a rapid transformation therapy specialist. One of them teaches accounting pros how to make more money in their business. One of them is a public speaking coach. One of them is a restaurateur. I mean, it runs the gamut.
Yeah.
And the reason why, Wally, is because social media is a funny thing, right? Because it's very casual and it can lull you into not realizing its power.
Mm-hmm.
And to you, that's not going to be revolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
But most of us, we don't really get that, hey, here's this opportunity for free to reach potentially thousands of people.
Yeah.
And we don't take that seriously.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so what the personal branding program does, well, first of all, it shows you how to multiply that thousands into hundreds of thousands.
Mm-hmm.
I've got well over 1 million person reach now. And I only shifted into this work full time, started doing it for myself within the last year.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I remember the transition when you started first talking about it in the groups and stuff. Yeah. You're, I mean, you know me, you're talking to somebody who gets it like 100%. I bring up TikTok to some of my clients. They're like, who the what? Well, first, what is TikTok? And those who have heard of it said my daughter's on that. That's not for a tattoo artist. And I'm like, okay, I pull up my phone and I show him a tattoo artist that's got 18,000 followers and well over 20 million views of his videos. And he's only got like 30 videos on 60-second videos on TikTok. I know a guy who has a restaurant out here in Clearwater. He's from New York, but he's got an Italian restaurant out here in Clearwater, Florida. He gets on TikTok and does these stupid little, hey, is that thing on? They come here, look at this cannoli, and stuff like that. Some kid, and he got him on TikTok. He had this kid. He goes, come here, this kid right here, he's from Virginia. He made his dad drive from Virginia all the way to Clearwater, Florida, so they could eat at this guy's restaurant because he saw him on TikTok.
Yeah.
Tell me that's not powerful. That is freaking powerful, man.
That's powerful.
That's
powerful. Yeah.
That's ridiculous. It's
that's
just amazing.
In a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, it's extremely powerful. And I asked that question about the vocations because I want guys to understand that, I mean, your business, everybody says that won't work for my business. You know what? The way you were doing it probably won't work for your business because you're talking about strategy over your tactics over strategy, so that's the kind of stuff you get into.
The thing that I would say to anyone who questions whether or not it would work for their business is, the analogy is if you got 1,000 people who know you, you'll have 100 who like you and 10 who trust you. And out of the 10 who trust you, one will probably buy from you. Mm-hmm. So would it benefit you to have 2 million people who know you?
Hello.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. I mean, we've got people who want to do brick and mortar style businesses and grow them with their personal brand. You bet, man. Let me show you how to target all of your content to 100-mile radius, 50-mile radius of your location. Mm-hmm. Mortgage lenders and real estate pros and people like that. Guys, girls, if that's you and you're listening to this, you need to start thinking bigger than the town you live in. Mm-hmm. Can you do business over Zoom? Then you need to be spread as far as the laws will allow you to spread. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know a guy who's a real estate agent in 4 different states.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. And
he does a lot of stuff online and he does a lot of training too. That's why he's made sure he got a license in all those different states, not only so he'd know the information, but he could actually operate in those states and show people, here's what I'm doing. And you're in your backyard and I don't even live there.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, all right, brother, we are going to shift gears again real quick and we're going to pay it forward to our listeners. You ready to do that?
Hell yeah.
All right. So share 1 to 3 actionable steps that men of abundance can take today.
Yeah. I was hoping you'd say something like that. Here's what you can do. The outcome I'm going to give you is how to reach potentially, literally hundreds of thousands of people for almost no dollars. Step 1, if you don't have a business page, for God's sake, start a business page. Step 1, that's step 1. Step 2, create simple, easy to consume content. And I'm talking videos that are like a minute or less. Publish 1 each day on your Facebook page. Set up a page, start to publish videos on it. Don't overthink what you put on the videos or anything like that. Just get you out there. Step 3, you yourself or hire someone. This would be an easy, quick one-off hire, probably cost you $50. Hire someone to create an audience for you that is about 20 to 30 million people big. It can be, I would always suggest, depending on what you do and what you want people to know about, I would suggest for most of us that are coaches, you go US, UK, Canada, and Australia. Just the big four markets. Just pick them all. As long as you can actually serve people in those markets. You have somebody set up an audience for you that is about 20 to 30 million people big, that is filled with people who are very likely to respond to what it is you do. For me, my audience is coaches primarily, right? Coaches and service providers. And so I have an audience about 30 million people big that reaches the US, the UK, Canada, and Australia, and it targets coaches. I target by income, I target by, all these things. Do those three things and just stay the course. Boost the content at $1 a day. So we're talking one video each day at $1 a day for, say, 20 days per video. Now, there's much more to it than that, but Wally asked for 3 actionable steps. 3 actionable steps you got. What you will find is within 30 days, you will easily have an audience of 30 to 40,000 new people. Here's what's cool about that. Once you get them from your page, you can send new content directly to them. Facebook automatically tracks those people and puts them in what's called an audience for you. And again, there are multiple levels above this, but just start with that. You follow that for 60 days, and I promise you, new people will start to come into your world that you'd have never met before asking to work with you.
Yeah, I love it, man.
There you go.
And one of those key points I will reiterate is to hire somebody. It doesn't cost much to do the stuff within Facebook. You have no business going into Facebook trying to figure that stuff out. It's zero ROI for you. It's a lot of time wasted, in my opinion.
No, you're right, man.
Somebody who knows what they're doing, let them get in there. They'll do it in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
You'll be pissed off because it just took them just a couple minutes, which would have taken you days, if not weeks, to figure out and still get it wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking from experience over here.
Right.
What are the rituals that make the biggest impact in your life, Manny?
Every morning without fail, I read my definite chief aim and I run my fingers across it as I read it. I then turn around and I journal. I then turn around and I read a little bit in a professional book. And as soon as I'm done reading, I create an email to my email list summarizing what I just read. Then I do a live stream. That's my morning ritual every day.
Wonderful. What does that do for you?
Well, it reinforces my goals, my definite chief aim, what I'm about, what I'm going to achieve. It makes it real. The journaling gives me clarity on daily direction, or sometimes it's reflective, but usually it's like what's going to happen today. The live stream creates my content for me for the day. My team then repurposes it. And creating the email each day, I'm about halfway through having a 1-year nurture sequence, which would make most people just throw up. Guess what? You got to write 52 emails. Oh God, no. Yeah. So I'm just doing it as part of a routine. And so every time somebody comes into my world, I have 52 touches with no pressure. So it does a lot of things for me. Yeah. It focuses me, it motivates me, it clears my mind, it connects to my audience, it creates my content. And by 11 a.m., I know if I don't do anything else that day, I've still killed it.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. And the compounding effect of that is absolutely amazing. And the part that I really like about that is that you're reading something, you're writing it down, then you're teaching it, you're sharing it with somebody else through an email and through live content, through a live video. And the best way to learn and master a skill is to teach it to somebody else.
Absolutely.
You only know a subject to the point to where you can teach it to somebody else. So that's absolutely brilliant, man. That's huge to be able to do that. And speaking of reading, what are you reading or listening to that you would recommend to our listeners, and why?
Yeah, man. So right now I'm reading Tribes by Seth Godin.
A good one.
It is a good one. It's really anecdotal. I didn't expect that. it's just little sort of anecdotal examples of why it's important to step up as a leader and what that looks like.
Just like his blogs. I mean, his blogs, the ugliest blog in the history of blogs.
Yeah.
But it's one little liners sometimes, it's crazy, but it's
that
brilliant.
are super insightful and
Yeah.
on point. I'm also reading Outwitting the Devil, which is amazing.
I haven't read that one. I know about it. I haven't read that one.
Yeah, it's basically taken everything Napoleon Hill learned and crystallized and then taught and putting it in a conversation with an imaginary, antagonist, and it's really good.
The story I got was when he wrote it back in the day, it was ahead of its time and would not have been very well accepted back then.
That was the fear. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a thought process that he had.
Process.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It makes sense. Interesting. So what do you feel holds most people back from living a life of true abundance?
Oh, great question, man. I feel like to borrow from Outwitting the Devil, I feel like it's a lack of accurate thinking.
Yeah, explain that. That's a new one. That's a good one.
It's a laziness of thought, man. Because everything starts with thought, right? Stephen Covey said there are two creations to everything, the mental creation and the physical creation.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I coach bright people, and they're still getting caught up in all this minutia and bullshit and irrelevancy instead of just taking action. Guess which 4 people in my of my students are taking the most action? The ones that I told you about who are filling their programs and have a waiting list and have to open group programs.
Yeah.
I heard a joke. Can't remember who said it. The difference between Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, right? Magic Johnson soars through the air. He's putting the ball behind his back and everything. And he's making 2 points. Larry Bird just walks up, puts it in, walks away.
Yep.
Right. Those are the people I want, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I want the Larry Birds and not the Magic Johnsons. I want the people that say, I go, look, go do this. And they go, okay, done. What's next?
Yeah.
Go do this.
That's a great analogy, man. I love it because I used to be that arrogant little bastard that thought he knew every damn thing. And I wanted to be in front of everything and be the center of attention. Now I'm just like, look, I give you this information. It's yours. Don't ever tell anybody who gave it to you, type of thing. I just don't need the limelight anymore. Kind of. That's just not how I run my business anyway. But yeah, I get it. That's very cool. I love it. So what does being a man of abundance mean to you, Manny?
For me, more than anything, it means really showing myself, the world, and all the people who doubted me that you really shouldn't underestimate me.
Yeah, that's a great feeling.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful, man. Brother, it's been a great conversation. I had no doubt that it would be because we always have good conversations anyway. It's just this time we recorded it. And what did we not talk about that you want to ensure our abundant leaders get out of our conversation today, and how can we get more of you?
Yeah, man. I would say we covered everything pretty nicely. And then I'd like to invite everybody who hears this, who wants more, to come and check out my Facebook group. That's really what I do. I'll provide a link. It's easy to join if you're awesome. If you're not awesome, it's hard to get in. But if you're awesome, it's easy to join. And you will love it in there. I'll add, if you're a faker, you'll be found out and you'll get kicked out. Yeah, we'll sniff you out right away.
Yeah, real quick, real easy. Too easy, brother. We're going to have that linked up in the show notes. Make sure you provide that to me. And guys, make sure you go there, click on that link, get into Manny's Facebook group. It's absolutely amazing. And it's ever evolving, and I love it. I just love the way it's growing. So again, Manny, great conversation, brother. Greatly appreciate you. I appreciate your insights every day whenever I get a chance on Facebook. And I'm on, because I'm not on all the time, but when Facebook alerts me that there's only a handful of people that when Facebook tells me they're on live, I jump on live.
Nice.
Just so either I can play along or heckle you a little bit.
Yeah,
whichever. One or the other. Well, brother, it's been great, man. I greatly appreciate it. Go out, live your life of abundance, and keep paying it forward like you are, man. It's making a huge difference.
Thanks, brother.
All right, guys, instead of an action step today, I need a favor. I need another business coach on my team to help me handle the exploding demand for business coaching services. Since I've been doing this for the last couple of years, one thing that I've found that many business owners have a problem with is finding more clients. Business coaches are exactly the same thing. They have a hard time finding clients. I don't have that problem. In fact, I get in contact with more business than what I can handle. So I'm looking for 2 to 3 business-minded people that have been wanting to be a business coach, and I'm going to train at my own expense the right individual with a passion for wanting to help small business owners become successful. There's no travel required unless you want to. I personally don't travel. Well, at least not for business anyway. And if you or someone you know is interested in being a business coach, then I'm going to put a link in the show notes of this episode. That link will take you to a 4-minute video that will explain what I'm looking for and the requirements for you to get the opportunity to work directly with me, so that together we can ensure that the small business owners, the backbone of our economy, are extremely successful. Now, go out, live your life of abundance. And guys, make sure to pay it forward.
That's all for today, Abundance Leaders. For more about our guests and the powerful information we shared with you today, be sure to sign up for our mailing list at menofabundance.com. We appreciate your time and look forward to hanging out with you on our next episode. So until then, be sure to pay it forward and live your life of abundance.